Privyet. Hello everyone. You're on the Slavic News Channel, and in this video, we'll discuss the most significant updates on the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. We have a lot of interesting updates, so let's begin. First, let's discuss the drone strikes by Russia. During the previous night, the Russians conducted another massive drone strike all over the entire territory of Ukraine. There was a swarm of up to 40 drones flying above Ukraine, likely aiming to discover Ukrainian air defense positions and possibly destroy Ukrainian energy facilities. According to Ukrainian statements, they managed to bring down 35 out of the 39 drones launched by the Russians. However, despite the effective air defense, reports indicate that some energy facilities were damaged and destroyed, particularly in the northern regions of Poltava, Chernihiv, and Sumy. For instance, there's a fire anomaly in an energy facility used by Ukrainians to transfer electricity from the western part of Ukraine to the eastern part. Similar incidents occurred in the city of Konotop and the city of Mirgorod in Poltava, where energy and infrastructure objects were targeted. These attacks highlight that there are still critical energy infrastructure targets in Ukraine that are vulnerable to Russian strikes, potentially leading to further escalation and societal difficulties. Now, let's move on to the mobilization process in Ukraine. We keep receiving updates about the challenging mobilization process in Ukraine and the ongoing strikes and resistance. Today, additional videos surfaced showing how the Ukrainian resistance is fighting against the recruiters. In these videos, we see vehicles burned by the resistance as part of their struggle against the Zelensky regime. There are speculations that these operations might be conducted by Russian special forces to portray them as acts of rebellion. Over time, the true nature of these events will become clearer. Furthermore, more videos are emerging from Kiev, where women are taking to the streets demanding the demobilization and return of soldiers who have been fighting since the beginning of the special military operations. This highlights the growing discontent and resistance among the Ukrainian population regarding the ongoing conflict and mobilization efforts. Next, let's talk about the line of combat contact. In the Lipetsk direction, there haven't been significant updates. However, interesting details are coming from north of Vovchansk. The Ukrainians continue to concentrate their forces around the village of Sinelnikovo, fearing a possible Russian offensive from the Seversky Donetsk River towards the south and the rear of Volchansk. This area is likely to see important clashes and events in the coming weeks. If the Russians capture this village, it could cut off Ukrainian supply lines, creating a cauldron and forcing difficult evacuations through long and hazardous routes. In the Kupiansk direction, there have been some significant developments. The Russians have established complete control over the village of Pishyana, which was confirmed by pro-Ukrainian and neutral mappers. Additionally, the Russians are advancing in the village of Andriivka, where they have raised the Russian flag. This progress indicates a strategic advantage for the Russians as the Ukrainians are forced to withdraw. In Makiyevka, the situation is also evolving. The Russians have crossed the Zarabets River, leading to heavy clashes on the Ukrainian side. Russian forces are advancing further south, with intense fighting occurring in the farms south of Makiyevka. This operation, known as the Makiyevka Flower, is crucial for the Russians and will likely result in further updates in the coming days. Regarding the Sirius direction and New York agglomeration, Toretsk, there haven't been major updates, except for ongoing bombardments by the Russians along the line of combat contact. In Toretsk, the citadel has been covered with fire, suggesting that it might have been captured by the Russians, although confirmation is still pending. In the western Ivano-Derievka direction, the Russians have made significant progress, capturing additional positions along Klozavodsk and fortifications. Some Ukrainian soldiers have been encircled, leading to attempts to break through, which will likely result in heavy losses. In Krasnogorovka, the Russians have made notable progress in the central, western, and northwestern parts. This information has been confirmed by both neutral and pro-Ukrainian mappers. In South Donetsk direction, the Russians are advancing along the front lines, capturing additional strongholds. Heavy clashes are ongoing, particularly in the Ugly-Darvadiana area, where the Russians are targeting Ukrainian artillery systems and equipment with FPV drones. Now, let's touch on political events. Hungary is facing a fuel crisis due to Ukraine blocking its oil supply routes, which will likely strain relations between Hungary, Slovakia, and Ukraine. In the United States, there have been calls for President Biden to resign, but he has refused. The Democratic Party sees Vice President Kamala Harris as a potential alternative for the upcoming presidential elections. In the Middle East, Israeli air forces conducted a significant attack on a fuel depot in Yemen, using a large number of F-15s and F-35s. The Israeli officials stated that this attack serves as a revenge message to the Houthis in Yemen after attacking earlier this week Israel with a drone. And that's it for this update. Slavic News Channel condemns any violence in the world. Thanks for watching and please like and subscribe.